Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Linda and I'm an independent mentor for conscious human development. Today I want to speak about limiting beliefs, a very uncomfortable topic for most. Most limiting beliefs don't feel wrong, they feel very familiar. They sort of settle into your thinking over time, they blend into how you explain your life to yourself, and they sound reasonable enough that at some point you stop questioning them. Somewhere along the way, something taught you to pull back. Maybe it was a moment where trying felt like it cost too much, or maybe it was a pattern of being disappointed, or maybe you learned early on that certain parts of you weren't always welcome, and so you adjusted. And nothing dramatic had to happen for that. It's more like a sentence quietly formed inside you, without any big decision around it. You didn't sit down and choose it, and you didn't consciously adopt it. It just became part of how you see yourself and your options. Things like, I'm not built for that, or that's not really for people like me, or I should probably be realistic. You're not repeating these thoughts all day, but they show up anyway. They show up in what you don't pursue, in how long you wait before acting, and in the way you soften your desires before they turn into something that might actually ask something of you. Limiting beliefs don't need to be loud to work. They work best when they feel practical, when they feel like they're helping you stay grounded. They help you manage disappointment before it even arrives. And they help you stay within what feels predictable. And they give you a way to explain why you're still where you are. And after a while, they stop feeling like beliefs altogether and start feeling like facts. Here's something that can be uncomfortable to notice. Most limiting beliefs aren't really about what you can or can't do. They're more about what might change if you stop believing them. Because if you believe differently, things would shift. You might start seeing yourself differently, other people might relate to you differently, and you might have to admit, honestly, that some parts of your life are choices, not just circumstances. That's not an easy thing to sit with. Growth doesn't only add things to your life, it rearranges things. When you outgrow a belief, you often outgrow a role, and when a role changes, relationships feel it. Some people adjust without much trouble and others don't. A lot of beliefs stay in place simply because they keep things stable. They help maintain expectations. They keep dynamics familiar. And they make you predictable to the people around you. And the thing is, at some point, that belief probably served a purpose. It may have helped you stay safe in an environment that didn't really have space for all of you. Or it may have helped you adapt, belong, or avoid conflict when you didn't have many options. That doesn't make it weak. It just means it was useful back then. But usefulness doesn't mean it still belongs in your life now. Survival strategies don't turn themselves off automatically. They keep running long after the situation that required them has passed. And then one day, you start to notice something subtle. You're not exactly unhappy, but you feel restless. Things feel flat. And there's this quiet irritation with a life that looks fine from the outside. And it's not that you feel broken, it's more that you feel underused. Like something in you isn't really being met. A lot of people judge that feeling or try to push it away. But that feeling matters. It's your system reacting to constraint. So here's a question worth sitting with, even if you don't answer it right away. Who would feel uncomfortable if you stopped believing what you believe? Let that sink in. Because many limiting beliefs function like unspoken agreements. They keep roles intact. They keep expectations steady. And they keep you in a position that others recognize and rely on. If you suddenly believed you were allowed to want more or choose differently, someone else might have to adjust. And someone else might lose access to the version of you they're used to. So the belief stays. Not because it's true, but because it keeps things easier. Beliefs also protect you from uncertainty. They keep your future small enough to imagine, contained enough to plan for, and manageable enough to feel prepared. But a larger future brings unknowns, and unknowns ask you to stay present. They take away the illusion that everything can be controlled. Trying and failing would mean feeling disappointment clearly, and avoiding the attempt keeps disappointment vague. And a lot of people choose vague without realizing they're doing it. Before anything even happens, you know, dreams don't disappear suddenly. They fade slowly. They fade through postponement, through waiting for the right moment, through telling yourself later. And then, at some point, something shifts. You see someone with a similar background take a step you thought wasn't available to you, or you notice that staying the same is starting to feel heavier than the risk of change. And that moment matters. Because once you notice that tension, it doesn't fully go away anymore. You can explain it away with logic and responsibility, or you can let a different question surface, like, what if this belief kept me safe once, but limits me now? Letting go can feel like betraying an earlier version of yourself, the one who needed that belief to get through something difficult. There's grief in that. Grief for time spent smaller than necessary, and grief for choices made from fear rather than trust. I know what I'm talking about. I went through that too. And that grief deserves respect. And beyond it, there's something quieter. More internal permission, more responsiveness, and more room to move without constantly negotiating with yourself. You don't have to tear beliefs apart or force yourself to think positively all the time. You can start by noticing when a thought quietly shuts something down and pausing long enough to ask whether it's still true for you now. That pause matters because it creates space. And in that space, direction starts to feel possible again. If this touched something in you, I'd really love to hear from you. So feel free to share in the comments what touched or triggered you the most. Sometimes the things that activate us are exactly the places where something wants your attention. And before you go, I want to leave you with something simple you can actually work with. At some point today, or sometime this week, take a few quiet minutes for yourself. No phone, no distractions. And ask yourself this question. Where do I consistently hold myself back, even though nothing external is forcing me to? You don't need to answer that right now. Just notice what comes up in your body. Any tension, resistance, or clarity. And then ask a second question. What belief am I carrying there that once protected me, but might not belong to me anymore? There's no pressure to fix anything. Sometimes just naming a belief already loosens its grip. If it helps, you can sit with one of these phrases and see how it lands. I'm allowed to update beliefs that no longer fit my life. I can appreciate what once kept me safe and still choose something different now. I don't need certainty to take a small, honest step. And I can move at my own pace without explaining myself. You don't need to force these sentences to feel true. Just notice which one creates a little bit of space when you say it. And if you feel drawn to go deeper, I want you to let you know that I'll be launching an online course called The 7 Keys, Foundations for Fulfilled Living. It's a grounded, practical course designed to support real inner change, that kind that actually shows up in daily life. The course launches on 5th of February. If you're at a point where you're ready to look honestly at what's shaping your life and gently but deeply shift it, this might be a really supportive next step. And if you want to stay connected, you're very welcome to follow and subscribe and share this video. More content like this is following. Thank you for being here.